Let's do it.
The only thing we have to
Beer.
is
Beer.
itself.
Beer. So many choices.
Only no function beer well without.
Woohoo! Beer!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Beer Busters. We're going to bring you the news and reviews of your favorite brews. My name is Dan Baker. I am joined by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner.
and of course the demented and fermented
Wayne Baker.
As we had just discussed prior to actually starting the show, our guest tonight, this is someone we've known for a very long time, but this is the first time she's actually been on the show. We have finally joining us for her own damn episode,
Hannah Godey.
Woo! Hannah, how are you?
I am doing wonderful. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you, too. Thank you for fighting with the camera so that you could Zoom with us and be on the episode.
I hope some of that make an outtake.
Probably. I haven't done outtakes in what feels like a decade.
I mean, we got a good 10-15 minutes there of
That's true.
technical difficulties.
That is very, very true.
Yeah.
Podcasting
Well, that's why I
and
married a nerd, because I don't understand technology stuff.
There you go.
You
So I am
still
the
did.
brewer.
You still did better than Sam from Bond.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
Oh, we never even got video from him. That was all audio.
Oh,
And what was his name?
Captain Techno Wizard.
Yeah, you know, if you don't have your video on in Zoom, it just shows your name, and his name was Captain Techno Wizard on the screen, and that's all we saw the whole time.
Is that Brandon Lynn being noisy in the background?
Probably.
no. I am still at the brewery, and we're doing takeout service, not inside service, but you might still be able to hear some people outside coming and going in and out to use the bathroom.
That's cool. Business comes first in more ways than one.
That brewery, which I'm sure we will
Yes,
get into
we will get into it in a little bit.
in further detail, is Naked Brewing.
Yes.
Your recently acquired new home.
Yeah, congratulations
You
on
used to be at Free Will, so that's really cool. One of our favorite
Thanks,
breweries.
guys.
We'll get into that a little deeper. I just know we mentioned the brewery, so we might as well up top let everybody know where you are broadcasting from.
Exactly. And you out there listening to this, remember, as you are listening, you can follow along online to our shenanigans on the Facebook. We are Beer Busters Podcast on the Twitter and the Instagram. We are at Beer Busters. There's beerbusterspodcast.com and, of course, patreon.com/beerbusters, where you get that coveted access to Last Call. You get the behind-the-scenes feed, and when we're allowed to be punished by weird drink concoctions, there are punishment videos.
And you may even, I mean, who knows, you also get outtakes. You may even get to hear Hannah struggling with her camera for 10 minutes before we started.
Ooh, now I need to
Maybe
actually do that.
We'll put that on Patreon.
I'm sure that'll get all the people excited.
Yeah.
Donations are going to spike.
Yeah, that's how this works, right? You know what? I'm going to hit a button. There's not a whole lot to do with, but we're doing this so I can feel kind of normal. Admittedly, I don't have a whole lot in the news world. There's something happening between Stone and Sawstone Brewing. Somebody's suing somebody else again because of a name thing. But there is something that Steph, I feel like,
This
will
is the
appreciate.
coverage you've come to expect from Beer Busters.
I just
Some sort of thing is happening.
I didn't read it because I didn't want to, because I'm like, the world is terrible right now, and I
That's
don't want
fair.
to look at news.
Oh,
even if it's beer
Coca-Cola?
news. Yeah, I know. So here's the thing. Steph, you like seltzers.
Yeah.
Well, we can expect another one coming next year because, of course, Coca-Cola, as Wayne said, is going to enter the already bustling business that is hard seltzers. They are going to use their Topo Chico brand name as a platform to make that splash, as it were. In a statement on its website, Coke stated that it is committed to exploring new products in dynamic beverage categories, including hard seltzers. The statement continued, Topo Chico Hard Seltzer is an experimental drink inspired by Topo Chico sparkling mineral water, which has been popular with many mixologists. Topo Chico Hard Seltzer will be offered in select cities in Latin America later this year, and we will share more details closer to launch. Topo Chico's been around since 1895. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I knew they've been around. I like Topo Chico.
I don't know that I've
I
ever
didn't
had
realize they've been around that long either.
Yeah, I knew they were pretty old. I feel like I knew they were owned by Coke, but forgot until just now that they were owned by Coke.
You know who else is?
Who's that?
Aha.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
like Aha as well.
I found that out the other day. They are owned by Coke.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it. There's
Everybody's
other
making hard
business-
seltzers.
Yeah, but it's another hard seltzer that we can expect to come out next year.
Is
And
this the first? I mean, I don't pay a lot of attention to hard seltzers. I mean, they're fine. I'm just not super into them. Is this the first like brand of like a mid-roll / seltzer water like making the transition into like hard seltzers?
as far
I mean,
as
are we going
I
to see like
know,
LaCroix hard seltzer
I
at
wouldn't
some
be
point?
surprised. I mean, it's money. I mean,
I'd
they
be
can make money off
100%
of it.
okay with that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Even Aha, I love Aha. I like their seltzers.
Or
If they're-
bubbly.
Yeah, bubbly's pretty good. If there was booze in
Yeah.
those, you know,
I thought we weren't allowed to drink bubbly
Perrier.
anymore.
Perrier. There
Yeah.
you go. Why are we not allowed to drink bubbly? Are they canceled?
Isn't maybe I don't know. I was listening to a podcast and they jokingly said something about it, but apparently it's owned by Ellen, and Ellen did some shit lately.
Oh yeah, everybody's mad at Ellen. I don't really care about.
Why
Ellen.
is everybody mad at Ellen? I don't
Because
know.
apparently she's a horrible person, which I've heard before for years. Like that rumor. This isn't an entertainment industry podcast. I don't care.
It should be though.
Let's talk about hard seltzer.
Yeah, it's not a hard
It's a
seltzer
beer
podcast either. But yeah, I don't know. I think this might be the first, at least as I'm aware, non-alcoholic seltzer going into alcohol.
Yeah.
GMM actually did an episode today on hard seltzers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they were all like beer brands that branched into it, except for White Claw and there was another one whose name I can't think of that
Well,
apparently was like
Truly,
the original.
Truly is just seltzer, right?
But that's owned
That's
by
Sam
Boston Beer Co.
Adams.
That's
Oh,
Sam Adams.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Really?
yeah, it's Boston
Yeah.
Beer.
I feel like I didn't know that. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Well,
more
there you go.
seltzers.
More seltzers, as I'm sure the industry will become more saturated that way. But it just goes to show, like Gene said, what is that, 2 years ago when we had him on? Future of beer's not beer.
Sorry, Dan. You dropped something over here. Oh, it's a name.
Thanks for picking it up for me. But that does bring us to the topic at hand, the person at hand, who is sitting in her newly crowned kingdom of Naked Brewing as the recently instated head brewer. So again, congratulations on that, Hannah.
Thanks.
So that happened beginning of July, I believe I saw, right? July 1st you took
Yep.
over? Okay.
So July 1st. Yeah.
Awesome.
That was 4 weeks.
How's it been so far?
It's been a wild ride. It's been pretty crazy, but in the best way possible.
That's good.
The entire world is doing the COVID pivot, and that the beer industry is definitely not immune to that. And trying to figure out what the best service model is to be able to get your product out there. Naked is a taproom centric brewery, so losing that model is it's caused a whole lot of what do we do? How do we make this work?
Yeah.
At the beginning of COVID and everything being shut down, before I came on board, Naked was not doing any service at all. And then in the last few weeks, they've been doing the takeout model, but then trying to figure out how much do we brew? What do we brew? What do people want? What's the sales velocity going to be? So it's a whole lot of trying to figure out what to do and trying to figure out what to do as a newly appointed person. It's been challenging, but I've loved every minute of it. It's been a pretty steep learning curve, but I get excited to learn and take on new challenges. That's kind of what motivates me.
Yeah, we love
Yeah.
Naked Brewing. We did our second podcast there not long before the world completely changed. And that was we were there and then we came back. Was our third?
Third.
Oh, we did three. We
Yeah,
did do
because
three
the
there.
first
Oh
one
my
was
God.
years ago. The second one was
That's right.
2018 because that
Right.
was the week before I wasn't going to be at
Right.
Little Big Beer Fest, and then we had this
Right.
one.
And then we did a third one. But yeah, one thing I saw is that you can order the beer to pick up, but you guys are only doing growler fills right now. So you're not doing
growler and
crowlers.
crowler fills. And because of the takeout model, and of course the guidelines keep changing. It seems like they're changing daily. It's not really daily, but it does seem that way.
Feels that way.
We are doing 100% takeout model, not doing any tap room service, because the size of the tap room, realistically, if under the current guidelines right now, where it says you can have 25% of your occupancy inside, that would basically allow like 8 people in the tap room. So it just doesn't seem worth it to do that. So we have set up a to-go model. If you do come to the brewery, you can order a growler or a crowler to go. You can also order a beer by the pint. We put a lid on it. We do have some picnic tables set up outside. And if you choose to stay and enjoy your beer at one of the picnic tables, so be it. And if you choose to go, so be it. We're just trying to do anything and everything that we can to share that beer love out there.
So you guys are filling crowlers. You have crowlers on hand and a machine.
Yes.
Okay, because
Yep.
I remember
You got it.
seeing on the website that you had to you don't actually have growlers. This was all you had to bring in your own growler for a growler fill.
So growlers, 64-ounce growlers, we do not have.
Right.
If you bring one in, we will clean and sanitize it and fill it for you with the beer of your choice. But crowlers, we definitely have.
Cool.
And honestly, that's where the majority of the sales have been, is going towards the crowlers.
Yeah,
So.
definitely. When I saw that, I thought that you guys didn't have crowlers either, and I feel like
that would be rough.
That's what I was going to say. How are you getting?
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But that's really like if you don't have canning and packaging and bottling already in place right now, that's what you got to do. You got to do the crowlers
Right.
or the plastic cups with the lids. Because I just see the picture of that on the online ordering site, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Stick a
Yeah,
little
it
straw in
seems.
there.
I mean, so far it seems to be going okay. It does force our hand when the weather doesn't cooperate, because they're picnic tables. We have like patio style umbrellas that can go in the middle of those picnic tables, but that doesn't do anything when it's pouring down rain or thunderstorming. So there have been a number of Thursdays and Fridays or Saturdays that we've had to altogether kind of closed,
Right.
which stinks, but
Yeah, I mean you got to do
you make it work.
what you got to do. Have you guys considered any kind of like delivery or anything, any shipping, anything like that?
We're not there yet, mostly because right now the only package format that we have is crowlers. But that, and I actually don't even know if I can reveal this to you guys or not, but there may be some other packaged formats coming available in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
All right, fair. Okay, well we'll go with that.
Please tell me more. Yeah, so maybe
Once
at
you
that point we'll look.
Get
we'll
you in
look
trouble
to
a month
see-
into your job.
Yeah, maybe at that point we'll look to see what makes the most sense, especially if the guidelines keep changing. And honestly, I don't anticipate the guidelines getting any less restrictive. So I think at some point we're not even going to be able to do the to-go model that we have currently. Like I think they're going to come down even more strict. But who's to say? Who knows?
Now, Hannah, I know the first beer that you brewed at Free Will was COB, which is, I know, a big favorite of yours and also one of Dan's favorite beers of all time. I'm curious, what was the first beer that you brewed for Naked, and have you brewed a beer for Naked yet that is your recipe?
Yes. So the first beer that I brewed at Naked was, so it's called Highly Inappropriate. It's a New England style fruited IPA. The concept behind that beer up until this point has been the fruit will always change. The base recipe stays the same, but the fruit will always change. But honestly, when I came on board, Sean and Jim kind of gave me free reign to do whatever I wanted. They gave me some sort of directions in terms of this beer sells really well, this beer sells really well, and Highly Inappropriate was one of the beers that sells really well. But they did say, use your professional expertise, look at the recipe, and if you want to tweak it, go ahead and tweak it. And I did a little bit and changed up the fruit. So the last iteration of that was pineapple. The one that is on tap right now is peaches and cream. And I think the biggest change that I made to that was just changing up the yeast, which, makes a pretty big difference, especially in a New England hazy IPA. So that was the first beer that I brewed. The beer that I brewed the next day is called Golf Beer. So it's an Arnold Palmer inspired pale ale. Has lemon and tea in it. So that I enjoyed both of those beers. Golf beer is super refreshing. It's like 5 something percent.
I found out about that one 2 days after my last golf outing, and now I know what I need to get for my next one.
Yeah. So funny story. The rep from Breeze Malting actually sent me a message after I think I must have posted something on my social media about it, and he was like, man, I'm a really terrible golfer, but I'm going golfing this weekend. I really feel like I should have this beer. And I was like, sorry, dude, you're all the way down in Virginia. Like, I can't help you on that. And he sent me a message the day after that. And he goes, I don't know if it was just all the good juju talking about that or what, but I had the best round of golf I've ever had after talking about golf here with you. And I was like, oh yeah. So
that's the tagline for the beer. It'll make you a better golfer.
Yeah.
Or at least make you think you're a better golfer.
Results may vary
after you've had a few.
Results may vary.
Yeah, your mileage may vary.
Yeah. No guarantees. Not the magic potion. But yeah, so Highly Inappropriate was the first one that I did. And that one we're going to keep in rotation, but I think we're going to go to doing rotating through 4 different fruits that we really like the combination and sort of having it become a series. We're also going to change the name from Highly Inappropriate to Highly Appropriate. There's something inappropriate about the beer. Like it's a pretty great beer. So I get why it was initially called Highly Inappropriate, but especially in today's climate, it seems to be a little bit better to put a positive spin on something. So
definitely,
highly appropriate.
I want to ask about the golf beer, the Arnold Palmer one, because that does sound like it'd be right up my alley, and it does sound very refreshing. But with the tea in the beer, how is that added? Like, what kind of tea is it? When does it go into the beer?
So we opened up a second tap room just last weekend. We've sort of been a little quiet with it again because we're not doing any inside service. So it is only to go. But the tap room is in the back sort of underside portion of a kombucha and tea company in Bristol called Noble Earth. And so when I decided that I wanted to do this beer, it was kind of a no-brainer. Well, let's work with Joe Rakowski, who owns Noble Earth, and get some tea from him. So honestly, to put the tea into the beer, I kind of do it like you would be making iced tea, except instead of having water, it's beer that's already fermented. So I cold crashed the beer, put the tea in, and let it steep for a few days, and then rocked it over to the bright tank and carved it. So
is it a black tea that you're using?
Ideally, I wanted to use a black tea, but the tea that Joe uses for all of his kombucha is actually a version of green tea. And I'll be honest, I am not a tea connoisseur at all. So I know that it is a type of green tea, but it is not the type of green tea that you would get like if you go out for Chinese food or even like it's a much darker green tea variety. So it has more of that black tea robust component versus some of the lighter like herbal grassy notes that green tea can have sometimes. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
I forget the word for it. I started trying to learn more about tea because
you're on a big tea kick.
Yeah,
lately.
I feel like I've been drinking way too much coffee, and it's just in my head that tea is healthier and better for you. And I really enjoy iced tea. It's my go-to drink when I'm not drinking beer or coffee. And I started getting loose leaf tea, and then I got an infusion pitcher, so I cold brew my own iced tea.
Yeah.
So I tried to learn a little bit more about it, but then I just found like 4 flavors that I really like, and I just keep ordering those. It's like a berry blast, plain old black tea, a peach something or other. But yeah, there's a word for that kind that you're describing, and it's on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think of it.
I honestly, you could say it to me, and I would probably say sure. It's a word that I struggle to even understand how to pronounce.
That's the thing. Yeah, I remember not knowing how to pronounce it. It starts with an R. I got that. It's like
It starts with an R. Yes.
Ruiblos.
No, it's
Is it not that kind? Okay.
It's not that. It's something else, but it is. It does start with an R, and it is. I don't know. I should just ask Joe. We'll follow up on that the next podcast. That we do in 5 years.
We'll do a tea segment.
Okay, that sounds good.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned about, and I don't know much about tea either, but I do kind of get that idea that like green tea is a little lighter, a little grassier, a little more herbal, whereas black tea is a little. And I would think the base being a pale ale, that the green tea would complement that a little more, but then maybe it's a little samey. I don't know. I guess the black tea kind of.
I like the flavor component of this tea. I think I will probably brew it again. It's gotten some good response from it. So I will probably do this again and experiment using a black tea. But if this was the only type of tea that was available, I would also be okay with reusing the same variety, because, like I said, it's not quite as light or grassy as the green tea that I typically think of when somebody says green tea to me. So.
I did want to point out, you mentioned briefly the new location in Bristol. When we were last at Naked, which I just looked up, was episode 188, which came out in just March of this year, so right when things were getting weird. We did talk a lot about that new location, and we did see some pictures and how it was, right under the kombucha place and all that. But I just want to direct our listeners, if you guys want to hear a little bit more about what that place is all about. Now, obviously, the details have changed because of what you can and can't do, but episode 188 is a good one to check out because we talked a lot about it.
Cool. Yeah. It's in a really cool spot. I was there last Sunday. It's right by the river, so a lot of foot traffic.
That's good. I'd be remiss if we didn't go around the horn and say what we're drinking. I mean, it is a beer podcast. I know we've all been drinking things. Yeah. Wayne and I are going through a can of Reading Premium from Sly Fox, because I was at Sly Fox the other day, and I couldn't leave without a six-pack of this. 16-ounce cans in a six-pack, $9.50.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's...
Oh, yeah.
That's like a $15 six-pack.
I mean, it's
down
not
here.
bad, but it's a cheap beer. Like, that's the whole thing about it.
It's a good beer.
It's a really freaking good beer.
I love this beer so
really
much. Nice. Hannah, are you still working on that slushy you showed us before we started recording?
Well, it's mostly like the melted, very sad bottom portion of it. So I have now moved on to my tippity top all-time favorite beer. I don't want any hate for saying this, but it is Jenny Cream Ale.
Oh, really?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh,
hell yeah.
man. There's drink what you like.
Yep.
I just did not expect Jenny to be the one.
Oh, yeah.
I knew that because
Jenny's my girl.
I briefly scanned through your interview with the Brewers and PA guys just earlier today in preparation for this, and you talked about that. So I knew that was coming.
Yeah. Yep. There's a time and a place for every beer in this world.
Yeah.
I personally, and if other people choose to use this moniker, that's completely fine. Personally, I do not like the term beer snob. I will never assign that to myself. Because I think that there really is a time and place for every beer in this world. There are times where I want to just get down on a PBR pounder, and I am not ashamed of that. Jenny Cream is my absolute go-to. If you read my Breweries in PA article, you probably also saw my challenge on Lion's Head puzzles. Mm-hmm. Lion's Head is another one of my favorite cheap beers. So, sometimes you just want a solid, great beer that you know what it's going to taste like each and every single time. You want to know that you can get it readily available. And also, I enjoy the fact that I can spend $10 and get 24 beers and 24 puzzles with Lion's Head.
That's
so
awesome.
There's also that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with those beers. I've got some PBRs, some Coronas, and Miller Lights in the beer fridge over here.
I might have to draw the line at Corona.
It actually, maybe it was because I was golfing and already drinking, but it wasn't that bad last time I had it.
Did you put a lime in it?
No. The cart girls are going around with limes that they're cutting up around drunk people on a cart.
I saw something on Instagram or Facebook today. Somebody was like, has anyone checked if limes cure coronavirus? Because they've been improving the flavor of Corona for years or something like that.
Man.
Which I thought was pretty funny. Steph, what are you drinking?
Yes.
Let's quickly move on from that.
I'm drinking Monstrata from Levante.
Ooh.
It's their Strata hopped pills. It's quite nice.
Nice. Levante makes really great, not to get on a tangent about another brewery, really great lagers, but like they have to, but they push the milkshakes and the hazies, and those are really good too, and they make a lot of them, and they're super popular, but I just feel like their lagers don't get enough love. Which I guess you could
we
say
went
about
to
any
get
brewery.
the Black is Beautiful release, and of course I couldn't just get that. I also had to get a couple crowlers, so this was one of them. It's quite good.
All right.
Fun fact, I am actually brewing a cream ale next week. So
yes.
I'm very happy.
And what are you naming it?
Oh, so that is actually a current beer. It's called Buck Naked. Multiple meanings on that. The brewery is on Buck Road. And the cream ale was actually brewed as the house beer for the Buck Hotel. So that name will stay, and it's quite delicious. It is a beer that I will not be tweaking, other than I'm going to lower the ABV a little bit because it currently sits at 5.7. That's too high for a cream ale, in my opinion. So
What are you taking it down to then?
like 5.1. Yeah, I just wanted to be right around 5. You know,
Yeah.
I don't actually even know what the ABV is on Jenny. 5.2.
Makes sense.
5.2 on Jenny.
I feel like somewhere in our travels we had an imperial cream ale somewhere.
Jenny makes one.
Do they? Oh, I didn't know that.
Tennessee makes one.
Because I remember thinking that's a weird style.
I don't think I've ever had anything else from Genesee but the cream ale.
That's
Oh, dude, they actually make some really beautiful beers.
Really?
Yeah, they do. They do. And obviously that's what has been around forever. But they do make some other really great beers. You know what beer I actually really like from them is their Ruby Red Kolsch. So it's just a Kolsch that they put Ruby Red grapefruit in, and it is very, very delicious and refreshing. And it comes in this super cute vintage looking can that's yellow, and so it's cheery and happy.
I had a chance to try that beer, but somebody drank them.
Really?
We had the Imperial Cream Ale at Round Guys.
Oh, I'm
And you're
drinking
drinking
out of a round guy's mug. Look at that.
40 ounces to freedom.
There it is.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. That's funny.
It's an appropriate name.
Thank God for the search option on Google.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Google Drive.
So-
I just searched all our old notes.
As long as we're talking about Hannah, your favorite beer, let's talk a little bit about how you first got into beer and like what beers you started drinking and what got you into craft beer.
Yeah. All right. So, the first quote unquote craft beer that I really remember having when I was in high school, because I was definitely 21 in high school for sure. 21 in high school.
Hey, everybody learns at their own pace.
Was
It's
Yingling.
fine.
So Yingling, and I remember it being a variety pack, and like Lord Chesterfield was in there, the black and tan, the lager, and then their porter. And I remember that porter I remember being blown away by it. Like, whoa, this is so good. I still really enjoy that beer. And yeah, so that was sort of like the first not Miller Lite or Bud Light that I remembered having. And then, you know, you go to college and you're a very poor college student, and a $10 case of Natty Light is what gets you through, every weekend. But I remember having Appalachian Brewing Company's Water Gap Wheat, and that was sort of a game changer for me. I was like, whoa, what is this? I had Blue Moon, but Water Gap Wheat just tasted so much better. And I remember scrounging change and like skipping on groceries and whatever, just to have money to occasionally be able to buy a 6-pack of that. And then I think it was my senior year in college. One of the local dive bars actually turned into sort of this more world eclectic beer bar. They were one of the first places that I remembered seeing the passports where like you could drink around the world and like get a stamp from each country you had a beer from or whatever. They had a lot of Belgian style beers, and that was the first time I remember having a sour beer. And my mind was just blown.
Did you like it when your first sour beer?
I loved it.
Okay.
I didn't know what the hell had happened to my tongue. I was like, what in the world is this? But I loved it and thought that it was super fun and super cool. One of my friends that was going to be the one to fix the camera on my computer just walked in to go to the bathroom because being an asshole. But yes, so first time I had sour beer, I was just I was blown away, and there sort of started the love affair with sours and weird funky beers. So yeah,
Which would eventually lead you to appropriately to Free Will, but
yeah.
before you got to Free Will, what got you into brewing in the first place?
home brewer. I homebrewed a few batches in college. Honestly, I couldn't even tell you if what we brewed was good. It may or may not have been. By my standards now, I'm sure it was freaking terrible. But you know, when you're in college and you're broke, like you'll drink anything that has alcohol in it. Like, let's be honest, I drank, you know, bottom shelf Vladimir vodka like it was water. So I don't think I really have any room to judge whatever I had homebrewed back then. So yeah, I don't know. I homebrewed a few times in college, and then after college, my brother and I homebrewed together a few times. I went to grad school and ended up, after grad school, moving out to greater Philadelphia region. And so I'm now married to the person that I moved in with, but we started out as roommates. We were friends from college, and he had homebrewed separately. And we're like, yeah, let's do this. Let's homebrew. This would have been like 2012, 2013. So at that point, we decided to like jump all in and bought a whole bunch of equipment. Most of it still sits in my attic currently because I refuse to sell it and get rid of it. You know, it's still my roots. And then I actually started working at Keystone Homebrew Supply. And ironically enough, I happen to live right down the street from there. So I started working there, and then that's how I met John from Free Will, and Dom. But John had formerly worked at Keystone before he left to open Free Will. So there was still a close relationship there. And so I got to know him. There's my friend. Hi. Okay. Hi. Bye.
I'm leaving.
Bye, Felicia. GTFO.
GTFO. Oh, man.
So my friend that just poked his head in actually lives really close to Free Will. He works with my husband, and his nickname is Barn Cat, or Princess, or Fancy Pants, or Super Palette.
Whoa, okay, I'm writing this down. Barn Cat.
One of the greatest people, yeah. Princess. He's one of the greatest people, but he's very particular about beer. But he has now been here 2 Fridays in a row, and that's pretty cool. Anyway, back to the original question.
If he had been there a little earlier, you'd be using a better camera right now.
Yeah, I know. Whatever, you guys just have to deal with me looking like a child right now, sitting with my chin basically at my camera level. So yeah,
it's almost like you're talking to us through one of those like secret like slats that you had to like say a password to get into like a shady club like Mo sent me. That's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah. Okay, well I'm okay with that. Knock knock. What's the secret password?
Barn Cat. It's Barn Cat Fancy Pants.
Barn Cat. Okay, that's fair. I don't know. What were we talking about?
You're talking about homebrewing, and then eventually
meeting John.
You knew John because he worked at Keystone.
Yeah.
Et cetera.
John asked me if I wanted to work for him part-time, and I said, hell yeah. And so for the next 18 months, I worked 7 days a week, one place or the other, and I bugged the shit out of them pretty much every single time I was at the brewery to hire me full-time. And then one day, John called me and said, well, first he started the conversation with, I'm really sorry, but I just don't think we can continue to employ you.
Oh, no.
And my heart dropped and I almost cried. And I would go, what? And he was like, I'm just kidding. Do you want to come be my brewer? And I was like, wait, what? I just went through a roller coaster of emotions. That's not fair at all.
What a manipulative bastard.
What? Are you serious? And he was like, well, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I wouldn't be asking you if I wasn't serious. And I was like, duh. Yeah, I do. So that's how I ended up at Free Will.
And then Free Will, you worked at since like around 2014, 2015.
So I started full-time. I started there part-time in February of 2014, and I went full-time July 2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was Keystone, Free Will, and now Naked. So your brewing experience was Free Will. There wasn't anything else in between.
Correct. Okay. Correct. And the downtime between when I was brewing at Free Will and came on board to Naked, I was out on medical leave after having surgery. So there was a 7-month hiatus, but not I was recovering. I had a wounded wing.
You mentioned your sort of love and passion for sour ales early on in your love for craft beer, and I'm sure that was just ignited during your time at Free Will. Do you have any plans to bring a sour program to Naked while you're there?
I do. There is, I'm going to say with quotation marks, there is a sour program here. I have not tasted any of the barrels that currently exist. I plan to do that, but so far the last 4 weeks have been me trying to get my feet under myself, trying to figure out like, where do I order grain from? Who is my chemical vendor? Where do I get hops from? But the next endeavor will be tasting through some of those barrels and deciding if they continue to sit the barrels or we dump and start over. But absolutely 100%, that is in the plans to reinvigorate. I'll use that word. I'll reinvigorate the sour program here. Jim, who is one of the owners and the original co-founder of Naked, loves sours and really wants to see the sour program exist. I think early on in Naked's existence, there was a relatively strong sour program, but as is with any project that you're not able to dedicate and devote some time to, it tends to sort of fall by the wayside, and then other things come along. So that's sort of what had happened. But yeah, I do plan on bringing some sour power knowledge.
I would love to. This would be so. We should do a podcast when you crack open those barrels to see if any of it's any good.
Oh man,
that would be so much fun to do. Because imagine, like, some of them are probably gonna. I mean, you don't know. It's a grab bag. It could be totally horrible,
idea.
Or they could be amazing. And like that's the really cool thing about like barrel aged sour beers is that
absolutely
you never and like from one week to the next could be completely different as well. And it's so cool doing that kind of stuff.
And barrel to barrel. I mean, and that honestly. That's what gets me the most excited about. So to sort of take this even bigger, a common question that people ask is like, what's your favorite beer to brew? Or my favorite question is, what's your favorite beer to drink? And my answer is always the one that's in my hand, because truthfully that's the answer. But whenever somebody asks what's your favorite beer to brew, I always sort of say, like, I wouldn't say that there's a particular beer that I love to brew or that I get most excited to brew. There's some that are a little bit more challenging than others just because of the grain bill. But in terms of actual production, my favorite is anything that is barrel aged, specifically with wild cultures. So sours and saisons with some mixed culture fermentation, because the differences between barrel to barrel is like, it's astounding. Even though the base beer may have come from the exact same batch, tasting the nuances between barrels it's really cool. There's just so much complexity with it. And then being able to take samples and start to develop this, I will use the word vision, but it's not really a vision because you're tasting it. So another sense. But you start to get this vision of where you think this beer can go or where it should go. And that's where the creativity comes out for me. Like producing sours and funky stuff and actually really anything that's in a barrel for me is where science meets art. And I have a science background. Yes, I can be precise and follow the scientific methods, and I'll have a hypothesis and whatever, be precise. But at the end of the day, I'm the girl that you're going to find tiptoeing through the daisies and blowing bubbles and trying to find the next best shade of lipstick. And so that's, for me, producing sours is that's where I really get to exercise some of that creativity.
Yeah, it's definitely it's one of the most interesting beer styles, or not even like style, like areas, because it encompasses a lot of different kinds of beer. Because it is like there's a lot of technicality behind it. There's the type of barrel do you use, how long do you leave it in there, do you introduce certain bugs, or you just kind of let whatever's in the air do it? Do you? And then
Right.
there's the tasting process. But I also like the randomness and just kind of like you can do all that and you can plan all that, but like you said, 2 barrels of the same base beer you're going to turn out completely different. And then it's sort of like you're being proactive, and then you're being reactive after tasting and saying, okay, well, if I blend this with this, or this is terrible, I'm just going to get rid of it, or this needs another week, this needs another month. And it's just, I don't know, it just seems like a really cool and more artistic. Not that brewing, non-wild beers isn't artistic, but it just feels like it has that little extra coolness.
For
to
sure.
It. Yeah.
For sure. And it's interesting because there are some brewers that are really good technical brewers. Like they can execute a recipe and they will, everything is very scientific. Full disclosure, water chemistry is probably my weakest area, but there are brewers that I know that absolutely geek out over the water chemistry and doing different adjustments. And, I can do it, but it's an area that I am not as comfortable in. But then the flip side to that is that there are other brewers that, I find that a lot of those very technical brewers are the ones that are the engineers, the black and white, the right angles, that they're really good at math. And I joke around all the time and say I'm terrible at math. I'm not terrible at math. I just, I don't love math. But the idea of blending or producing sours for some of these very black and white right angle brewers is, watch their heads explode. Like that's completely outside of their comfort zone. That's not anything that they would want to do at all. And so you almost need to be able to have both of those types of brewers within an organization, especially if you're going to have a sour program or a barrel program in general.
Yeah, and if you want that program to be consistent, insofar as that kind of beer can be,
right,
like Free Will is like whatever you get from Free Will, that wild fermented sour or not, it's going to be a good beer because it's just an organization that, and with John's leadership, that has been able to, and Dom, to consistently produce good beers of that style, which it is a dice roll, so it's not always easy to do.
I will say though, so while you strive for consistency in certain types of beers, so for instance, at Free Will, it would be like the Craggle, Crisper Kolsch, things like that.
COB.
You want that consistency. So you want to know that whenever you order that beer, whenever you get a can of it, it's going to taste the same. But for sours, I oftentimes liken it to wine. So you go to a vineyard and you order a 2017 vintage cab and you order a 2018 vintage cab, they're not necessarily going to taste exactly the same. And you go into that knowing that they're not going to taste exactly the same, right? Because you have different growing seasons. Ironically enough, this is what I did my master's thesis on. But that you go into it expecting that there is going to be some differences between those years. And that's exciting because you get to taste them side by side, right? You get to sort of dissect that flavor profile. And maybe some of that is attributed to the growing season. Some of it is attributed to the way that they blended it and whoever their blender was, that year. But sours are very much the same, where yes, you want it to be in the same vein as where it was before, but you don't necessarily expect that one vintage year to the next vintage year is going to taste exactly the same.
No, I have a question about wine, since a thing or two, which I didn't know you were so knowledgeable about wine, and I know pretty much nothing. When I know, like, a lot of the differences in batches of sour beers comes down to a lot of things, but a lot of it comes down to the yeast, whether you're pitching something intentionally or you're just letting it ferment with whatever's around. In wine, is that a thing? Are you always using the same yeast? Is there a wild fermentation aspect to wine at all? I have no idea how it works with wine.
Yeah, so in modern day traditional winemaking, winemakers are using sulfites to kill off any bacteria or wild yeast that naturally is occurring on the grape within the must. and then they're pitching their own yeast that they want to use in it, so that they know what type of fermentation is going to happen. However, there has definitely been a trend in the last several years going more towards natural wines. So people are not sulfiting them. So whatever is existing on the skins is fermenting the wine. And so you are sort of starting to see that crossover between some, mixed fermentation beers and natural wines, which is that excites me. I think that kind of stuff is cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. I would definitely like to. I'm not huge. I know I like dry red wine. That's as much as I know about wine. But
it's all about sweet white wine.
No thanks.
That's where you need to go.
All right.
Yeah.
But I would, but I love the idea of tasting like either spontaneously fermented or like lacto or Brett or any of that kind of stuff, like the sours, just because the yeast character. Like you can get we've tasted side by side beers that are clean but have been fermented with different yeasts, and it can change profoundly the taste of the beer. But there's something about that wild and that sour funkiness that just makes you appreciate yeast even more. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Makes sense.
For sure. These teeny tiny little single-celled organisms.
They also make cheese.
The miraculous things.
They're so great. And bread. I mean, come on.
Yeah. So many amazing things.
I should also mention that Dan and I have moved on to another beer. We've cracked open the Il Cielo Italian-style Pilsner from Human Robot.
Oh, yeah. Human Robot is making some phenomenal beers.
Is this
and
the
they're just
first
good
thing?
people and fun people.
Nice.
And I enjoy them.
Oh, Steph's got a root down.
Spoiler alert, we will be doing a virtual podcast with Human Robot in the coming weeks.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
I'm now cracking open Root Down's PA Lager.
Oh, nice.
I almost brought a can of that in my grab bag of random beers that I have sitting beside me.
Nice.
But I didn't.
Sadly.
I'll drink it
Steph
for
will
you.
drink it. I was just going to say, Steph will drink it for you.
I do have
So
a random grab bag of things, but
Can I be your beer bitch?
yeah,
Oh.
journaling could be my beer bitch.
Man.
There you go. All right.
Perfect.
You can also enjoy something from there if you would like.
No beers for the help.
Or all the beers for the help.
No, they're all for me. She currently has a pink lemonade slushie that is also sadly melted.
Aw.
So
Let's talk. I want to talk about this pink lemonade slushie. Is that a Naked product?
yeah, so prior to me coming on board, they made just a base hard seltzer.
Yeah, we tried that
That-
last time we were there. Yeah.
Wasn't overly exciting, and they weren't really sure what to do with it, and especially once COVID hit, and then it was sort of like, I don't know what to do with this. So what does sell is these lovely slushies. One, because they're delicious. Two, it's hot outside, like real hot. Now tonight is actually gorgeous outside, but it's been like 90 something every day for the last several weeks. So
Yeah, it was brutal
we
until
have
recently.
we have two slushy machines, and honestly it's just pink lemonade frozen concentrate and the seltzer base in it, and it is delightful.
That sounds really good. I
It
think
does.
I think I misspoke. I don't think we actually did try it. I think it was in the in production.
I don't think we tried it either.
But we did talk about it being just sort
Yeah.
of an unflavored seltzer base, and the idea Sean was telling us was to add like syrups and do things like slushies and add different flavorings to it, which sounded really interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
versatility out of the one thing, which
Yeah.
I think is a brilliant move.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask. So the past couple episodes, we've had some conversations that were a little bit bigger than what we normally do, and I guess it can boil down to, especially in the beer industry, groups of people being underrepresented necessarily. So we had people of color, because all the breweries that are doing the Black is Beautiful project that were collecting these beers like Pokemon, but you could argue that another underrepresented subset of people in the beer industry would be women. So now here you are as a woman head brewer of a damn fine brewery. But what has your experience been in the beer industry of being a woman?
Yeah, well, so I struggle to answer that question without being snarky initially, and I will tell you why.
Okay.
And it's not because of anything that you just asked. You asked a very appropriate question, but oftentimes the question is, what is it like to be a woman in the beer industry? And my snarky answer is, well, I don't know what it's like to be anything but a woman in the beer industry. So next question. But that is the appropriate response. And that's just, my sassy side coming out. It's so women exist in the beer industry. I sometimes struggle when people will say, oh my God, it's a woman brewer. You're a female. You're a brewer. Like, yeah, I'm not a fabled unicorn. Like, we do exist. And historically, actually, women traditionally were the brewers. By, long defined societal gender norms, it was part of and it pains me to say this, but it was part of the kitchen duties, was brewing. So while the men were out hunting and gathering, the women were in the kitchen brewing beer. So it really wasn't until Prohibition time that it started to become much more of this male-dominated thing, and that women suddenly became these fabled unicorns. But we're starting to see that come back around. I like to approach things from a very educational standpoint, and big on education, and also big on inclusivity. And that doesn't just mean including, people from diverse backgrounds. That means that when you are speaking to someone in your attempt to educate them on an issue, approaching it from a very inclusive standpoint and recognizing that where that person might be coming from, perhaps their perception that there aren't women in the industry comes from just a lack of exposure. And that's not necessarily their fault. And so instead of being snarky or immediately attacking somebody for making a sexist remark, I personally like to approach things from a much more calm, mild-mannered, and educational standpoint of, hey, I know that you probably didn't mean anything by that comment, and I totally understand how maybe you came to that conclusion, but here's perhaps some information that would be beneficial for you, and here's an alternative way to approach that in the future, whatever. Because if you come at somebody in a very like aggressive chihuahua, like kind of way, people tend to shut down. They don't want to hear anything that you have to say beyond that. And then no matter how diplomatic and big your statement is beyond that point, they're not going to listen. They don't care. They view you as being the stereotypical problematic loudmouthed woman, which is exactly what I'm trying to combat. So, finding that balance and that approach, finding the appropriate approach, has served me well over the last several years. I'm constantly learning and growing and figuring out better ways to communicate and get that message across a little bit more. But, things like having the Pink Boots Society and the recognition, the international recognition that is getting, and the platform that allows for women in the beer industry to be part of, is certainly helping to propel the idea and the notion that, women are in this industry, from everything from ownership down to, bar back help. And every person, male or female, or however you choose to identify, is just as important. Everybody is a spoke in the wheel that helps make it go around. So, I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Very thoroughly.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, and it's tough to for me, it's always like when I try to like talk about these points and be like, yeah, I see what you're saying, and like this has been my like I'm a white guy, like
Yeah.
I feel like like my experience is totally different, not only from a woman in the industry, but minorities in the industry and everything else. But I feel like in the 7 years we've been doing this podcast, it seems that the industry has, in that time, from my perception, increased in diversity. And I know it's an industry you've been in for the same amount of time, if not longer. And I'm wondering, do you see that as a trend? Do you see more diversity, or is or people that aren't the bearded white guy brewer just more visible now, or are there actually more? Is it more inclusive?
I think it's a little bit of both. If you were to have asked me this question prior to maybe 2 or 3 months ago, my answer, I think, might be different than where it is now. I think right now, in the current climate, everything that is happening right now has really just propelled the idea of diversity and inclusion to the forefront in every facet of this world, not just within the beer community. But the beer community has existed in this somewhat isolated bubble for a very long time, and I'm actually happy to see the amount of behaviors and breweries and individuals that are being called out for unacceptable behavior. I think because there have been some very public instances of inappropriate behavior and lack of diversity and inclusion, again, not even just within the industry, but worldwide. I think that women are finding, and marginalized communities are finding a voice that they maybe didn't have the confidence to use before. And being part of that movement it's intense sometimes. For anybody that's listening, I am not a quiet, meek person. I'm aggressively friendly. So like if you meet me, I'm gonna make you my friend. Like that's just how I roll. But because of that, I also take on, or I feel the social responsibility to sort of be a strong voice for not only myself, but on behalf of people that maybe are not as comfortable standing up or coming forward or voicing opinions or concerns, or areas where they see deficiencies or injustices happening. So that can sometimes be overwhelming, but it's also hugely important. And I know that. And being overwhelmed is nothing in comparison to some of the injustices that either I have felt or other people have felt as well. So I think that the overall beer industry is becoming more aware that these are issues that need to be addressed. We're slowly fixing some of those problems, I think. But it's not just limited to the beer industry. I mean, we know that. And in some industries, the notion, teaching's a great example, Steph. You can probably attest to this. Like, the idea is that women are teachers, right? Like that seems to be like a stereotype. Same with like nursing. But why? Why does that need to be a stereotype? It shouldn't be. Like it doesn't. It has nothing. Gender has nothing to do with your capabilities of being a teacher or a nurse. Just like within the beer industry, it's been the reverse, where it's men were the brewers, men were the ones that worked in the industry, but why? There's nothing to say that a woman can't. So, I think a lot of these issues are just coming to light much more, especially in the last several months. They've come to light much more. I also think that the push for STEM-based education at a much earlier age. So you're seeing STEM-based education classes as early as kindergarten and first grade. Seeing that tracked, which so much of what brewing is based within science, technology, engineering, and math, so seeing those opportunities be open and available to everybody at a much younger age, I think also helps to break down some of those gender societally defined gender norms that really are bullshit, shouldn't exist. But seeing that education component come through is pretty cool. If I had known that brewing beer was an option for me, I think that would have changed my whole world. I don't regret, any of the education that I did, but how cool is it that people are learning at such a young age that these are opportunities that are out there. Yeah, I don't know. I think we are moving in the right direction. We can still do better.
I think you're really smart to bring up education, though, because I think that our generation in particular has a very important job in to make sure that the kids that are growing up now know that they don't have to be defined by their gender or by the color of their skin or by their background. I mean, I was flat out told by someone very close to me when I first got into beer that beer was a man's drink. And part of the reason that I started home brewing and part of the reason why I went to the American Brewers Guild, I think, was to prove this person wrong and to show them that, no, it is not a man's drink, that it can be my drink too. But for someone that close to me in my life to flat out say that to me, like, we cannot be doing that to the kids that are growing up. And as a teacher, I take that responsibility very seriously to make sure that every one of my students, no matter what their background is or what their story is, that they know that they can be whatever they want and do whatever they want and can be good at everything and anything. And I know the people in my life feel the same way, and I hope that their parents and others feel that same way too. But I think that is an important role for people our age, is to make sure that the next generation does not feel confined or defined by something that they think that they should or should not be.
Absolutely. And I 100%, everything you just said, 100%. I mean, I was raised in a very, my mom, she's now retired, but she was the director of education for a nature and art center. Very similar to the beer industry. It was dominated by white bearded men wearing flannel. Very, very similar to the beer industry. But because of that, I was raised to not feel like I had to conform or not feel like there were certain roles for men or for women. My dad had an equal responsibility for raising my brother and I, just as my mom did. So I feel very, very, very fortunate that I had such strong, kick-ass role models, such as my parents. But I also recognize now as an adult how unique of a situation that was. And it wasn't until I was middle school or early high school before I realized that not everybody had that same opportunity presented to them. Not everybody had the same encouragement to be able to pursue something, and whether you were male or female, it didn't matter. So, I grew up playing on all boys sports teams. I grew up going to summer camp that was pretty much all boys. I grew up going to different various like outdoor activities, like shooting black powder guns and orienteering, stuff like that. That was like, it was all boys. And yeah, I was the only girl, and at 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, like I didn't necessarily appreciate that for what it was at the time, because the boys, ew, girls are gross, so like I felt very ostracized and not included, which I think in the long run then forced me to recognize and understand that feeling of not being included and that desire to want to be included, and then to not want to do that to other people, and recognize that, okay, I'm going to have to work hard. I'm going to have to stand up for myself. And there are going to be people that aren't going to want to deal with me based on my gender, and that sucks. And how do I fix that? How do I make them just see me as Hannah, not Hannah is a female and females are gross, like, or whatever. So that's a lesson and things that I learned, I think, at a very young age, but I didn't really recognize the magnitude of that, I think, until I was probably in my 30s. I think I sort of always viewed it as a challenge that I had to overcome, and probably at certain points in my life tried too hard to prove myself, which is as equally detrimental as not doing anything at all. But, you live and you learn. Be 1% better every day than you were the day before. Learn from your mistakes.
Very well said.
These are some big topics.
See, that's what I said. We've been having these bigger conversations.
Yeah,
and
you kind of have to, right?
Especially,
now.
you even said it too. The way society is right now, there are bigger things that need to be talked about. And yeah, we're a little beer podcast, but there are things in this industry that have got to change. There needs to be more inclusion, and
this
you're
is
right.
A platform to talk about that.
It is, and you're right. It's there have been major strides in inclusion and diversity in the industry, but you're right. There can still be growth. There's still a long ways to go, and if we can help make that happen, I want to help make it happen. And it's not just this industry. I mean, that needs to be across the board. Like, society as a whole needs more inclusion in every facet of it. And it's not just beer. I like drinking beer. Beer makes me feel good and warm and fuzzy inside, but there are serious things that are in the beer industry.
Yeah, well, and it's something that's come up, across the years of doing this podcast, is that beer is a communal thing and it brings people together, and it's, and that's always been true. But sometimes when you're saying that and you're sitting in a tap room and you're sitting around having a couple drinks, having a great conversation, saying, "Oh, isn't it great that we all come together around beer?" And then you look around and it's just a bunch of white dudes.
Yep.
And you're like, well, I mean, we're saying it, but it could be more true.
But is that what the reality is?
Yeah.
And so that actually brings up a really good point, and two different levels, actually 3 points. So one of the biggest reasons why I got into the beer industry is because it was a unifying factor. It was something that I felt like put me on an equal playing field with the person sitting across the table from me, that we were both enjoying the same beverage or the same type of beverage, and it opened up conversations and avenues for networking and connections that maybe in a normal daily interaction I might not have met that person. So that was one of the things that really drew me into the beer industry to begin with. Number two, bringing up the point of sitting in a tap room and you're looking around and thinking, wow, everybody in here looks the same. That is a truth. And one of my personal missions, and I can tell you, one of Naked's overall missions, is how do we fix that? How do we make it an environment that people feel welcome in, that they feel safe, that they don't feel intimidated? In any educational opportunity that I ever do within the beer industry, because as I touched on before, education is a pretty big platform for me. I always try to make it as not intimidating as possible for people, to break down those barriers that maybe prevented somebody from wanting to try a beer. I think we've all been part of some sort of tasting, whether it is beer, wine, whiskey, cheese, whatever, you name it, a tasting where you enter into it and you think, oh my gosh, I don't know enough to be part of this. And you feel really intimidated. And so you don't enjoy the full experience that you should, or that you could, right? So I always try to approach it as, hey, this is a very personal experience for everybody involved, and I want you to get out of it whatever you want to get out of it. Let's figure out how to make that happen, and let's introduce you to something that maybe you have never tried before, and let's make that a comfortable scenario so that I can welcome you into this circle. I want to welcome you into this circle. Come here. And so trying to break down some of those barriers and figure out how to make that a much more inclusive and comfortable environment is a big challenge, I think, for a lot of breweries. And exactly to your point, when you look around and you see the same people around you and a lot of people not represented around you, I think breweries need to take a good hard look at their own culture, perhaps, and how they are presenting within their own community. I actually recently sat down with a diversity and inclusion consultant. She has a PhD. This is literally what she does each and every day. She consults for a company that has Fortune 500 companies that they do diversity and inclusion seminars for. And she brought up the idea that it's not only diversity and inclusion, but it's also engagement. And how do you engage not only your in-house culture, but how do you engage those around you and the community in which you exist? And figuring out what those points are is really the key to then increasing your inclusivity. So looking at what your demographic is that you want and figuring out what are we doing or not doing to make them feel included is a really, really big part of that. And I had a third point and I kind of forget what it was, but it was along those lines
I'm sure it was
of
a
all
great
of
one.
that.
We've been drinking. It's understandable.
Actually, so as you were saying that, I was reminded of something somebody said, and I think it's been said more than once on our podcast. And early on, because when we started, Dan and I knew next to nothing about beer.
I still do.
Steph was the formerly educated one, the one who had brewed beer, the one who still.
Steph is awesome.
Steph
Yes,
is
she
awesome.
is very much so.
So it was really intimidating early on because, like, from my standpoint, like I wanted to get into beer and I wanted to know beer, and I feel far more educated now than I did 7 years ago. But there is an intimidating factor to it when you're when you were first introduced with a group of people who are really into beer, whether they're industry professionals or just consumers. You want to like.
Sorry, we have ghosts in the brewery. They just knocked over a stack of chairs.
Oh, a whole stack of chairs. Oh my god.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Carry on.
Carry on. Continue.
She's trying to make you not feel intimidated, Wayne.
I don't feel intimidated. Thank you. I appreciate that. But one of the things that, and I think this is an interesting analogy, was like I remember when we would sit around and we taste beers and we talk about, this tastes like this or it reminds me of that or whatever. Which I feel like we did a lot more in the beginning because we kind of felt like that's what we had to do, which was very intimidating when you're just getting into beer. She's like, I don't know, it tastes like beer to me. Like,
yeah.
But something somebody said, and I think it's been said more than once, and I don't remember who, and I'm sorry to them for forgetting. But when you're talking about beer tasting, like nothing you say is wrong. Like whatever you're experiencing, just express that. And I think that's a really good
100%.
an analogy to like not just getting into the beer and then like talking about how it tastes, but also getting into the culture. And like, if I walk into a place, a brewery, and everyone in that brewery is different from me in some way, it's intimidating. And like you said, it's not just about tolerance or inclusion, it's about engagement. And so there is sort of an onus on that group of people if they truly want to diversify the culture and the community that they're in, to extend a hand metaphorically or literally to the person walking in who's different in some way and say, it's fine. Like, it's cool. Like, come in, be yourself, do your thing. Like, we can all get along and enjoy this together. And I don't know. I just felt there was an analogy there, I think, that popped into my head.
Tim even said it from Harris Family. He wanted to make beer approachable to typically his experience was that the black community had not been I don't want to say welcomed into it, but they haven't been advertised and there was no marketing directly towards the black community with beer. And that's one thing that they really want to do is make the drink that they've all come to know and love, but to also market that towards a group of people who don't really get the exposure to it because they're not a targeted demographic of people who market this kind of stuff. So it kind of goes into that too. The onus is on somebody from the inside to make sure that they're educating people the right way. And of course, fucking Brandon would be in the background.
I didn't like the beer she had picked for me. I mean, it's not that I didn't like it because I picked all the beers in my grab bag, but it just wasn't what I wanted to drink at that moment.
Well, what did she get you versus what do you want to drink at this moment?
Well, so she pulled out Sneak Box from Kane, which is a phenomenal pale ale. I love that beer. It's a really great beer. But I decided that I wanted Bane of Existence from Hitchhiker instead. This is actually probably one of my favorite beers.
I have not had it.
Oh, it's so good. It's just a really great hazy IPA.
That's why Dan hasn't had it.
Yeah.
It's a hazy IPA.
I've had my fair share of them.
No lactose. Speaking of being approachable, this is a really approachable IPA. And I don't know. I really enjoy it.
Good. If you like it, drink it.
And that's like being a little self-reflective. Like I made the joke about like we've on this podcast for the past, I don't know, however long hazy beers have been popular, have been the old people like, fuck those beers, you stupid kids and your hazy beers. Like we want to drink lagers, we want traditional styles, and it's kind of like a part joke, part like serious. Like we don't like that it's invading all the taps in every brewery, but thinking back on
but that's not inclusive.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yep.
Thinking back on that now, like we were being jokey about it, but I think maybe that does put up a wall, Yeah,
it does. It absolutely does.
And we try to always end with the caveat, like, of course, drink whatever you want to drink. That's fine. Like, we don't really care, but that doesn't change it, And it sounds like a little stupid thing, but I think this is, a point in history where we all have to stop and look at those little stupid things and think, well, are they actually hurtful in some way? Like, even if you think you're just being jokey and dumb, like, maybe try to put yourself in somebody else's shoes once in a while.
Do you, as a head brewer and somebody who's been in the craft brewing industry for a while, if we're going to think about education and approachability...
Still prefer lagers, though, by the way, just to clarify.
Right. That goes without saying.
I think everyone knows.
Yeah. Do you, if you tell people about, education and trying to make it more relatable and approachable, do you as a head brewer, if you're talking to somebody about craft beer, let them know that one of your favorite beers is Genesee Cream Ale? Because I'm sure that breaks down one of those walls right off the bat.
Hell yeah, absolutely. And so I used to do a lot of the brewery tours at Free Will, and very much the way that I started the entire conversation about how I don't like the word beer snob. But I also don't want to chastise people that have taken on that term and use it to describe themselves because they think that it's something positive. Okay, that's fine. I don't want to make them feel badly about it. It's just personally not for me, but I would start most of my tours kind of, let's get this out of the way right off the bat. Basically trying to tell people, if you're going to come in here and think that you are better than the person beside you because you've had this beer, this beer, this beer, and this beer that is, from across the country and they only made 200 of them or whatever, like, this is not the place for you then. Like, I am going to tell you right now that I am a brewer here and I welcome anybody in here that wants to drink any beer and wants to talk to me about any beer. So yes, to answer your question 100%, I let people know that I will drink anything and everything. And yeah, it really making jokes, even as a joke, still could be perceived as somewhat passive aggressive or whatever. Have I been guilty of it? Absolutely. Have I become more aware of that? Yes.
I got called out at one of my jobs about that. Everybody thought I was like the negative guy that nobody wanted to work with and everybody wanted to avoid. And to me, I was just making a bunch of jokes. And turns out they came off very passive aggressively.
Yeah. And sometimes you just need that one person or one instance to call you out and go, holy crap, that is not my intention. But you know what? Perception is everything. So what my intention is and your perception, there's a disparity between those two, and we got to figure out how to make that not.
Doesn't matter what I mean. It's how you took it. If that's whenever somebody tells you that, oh, that's something's not offensive. Well, it's not up to you to decide if somebody was offended by that. If you like, it's like if God. I was a pudgy little bastard when I was a kid, and if I made a fat joke, it was okay. But if somebody called me fat, it wasn't okay. And it's
Right.
because people heard me calling myself fat and making fun of myself that they felt that they could, but then I got hurt by it, and then somebody tried to tell me that I wasn't allowed to be hurt by it because I said it. And they were just piggybacking off that. So
We need to stop saying hurtful things about ourselves.
well,
Truth.
hold on.
Oh,
Let's
boy.
not go that far.
King of self-deprecation over
Fucking
here.
right.
I was just gonna say, well, self-deprecation and working on self-love that could be a whole series
Yeah.
of
Oh,
other
for sure.
podcasts.
We actually, speaking of Brandolin, last time she was on with John, had a very long, interesting conversation. Drunken. We drank a lot that night.
And that was still
Yeah.
early on.
Late
too.
at night. But
I think she texted me after that. By
Yeah.
the way. In
Yeah,
fact, I know
she-
that she texted me after
really
that.
interesting about being being a small business owner, working for small businesses, and like the connection to your own mental health and self-care that people don't think about when they get into entrepreneurial pursuits. That was really interesting and really worth listening to. So if you haven't subscribed to our podcast yet, please go to your podcast app now and click subscribe.
Smash that like button. Leave a comment.
Side note, I remembered what my third point was
Oh,
from
all right. Yes, please.
20 minutes ago. So yesterday, I actually, speaking of self-care too, I've front end loaded my week and worked my ass off Monday through Wednesday so that I could kind of have a easier second half of the week, which actually allowed me to be able to take off yesterday. And I went to the beach and it was gorgeous and lovely. And the beach is my favorite place in the whole world. And
Of course,
I'm
staying
happy
6 feet
and-
away from everyone the whole time.
Of course.
yeah, actually, honestly, the
There was no
so I've
one
been going
there.
to Belmar because it's super close, but it's like 12 plus feet between
Yeah.
blankets. Like it is not
Yeah.
the Jersey Shore that has been of summers past. I can tell you that much. I feel actually very comfortable on the beach. Anyway, I digress. So yesterday I came back from the beach and stopped at the brewery on the way back home to pick up some crawlers, and I pulled into the parking lot, and all of the tables out front were pretty much filled. There was one dude in that entire crowd. Everyone else was women.
Oh, cool.
And that was a really, really cool moment. To see that it's such a departure from what I have typically seen. And they were individual groups. It wasn't like it was a large mass, sorority outing, which I was in a sorority, so there's no shade being thrown at Greek life. But that was pretty cool. And on a normal daily basis in the brewery, it is just Sean and I. We're the badass bitches running this show. And that's pretty cool. And yeah, it's just, it's really cool. And to see the patrons be mostly women yesterday. And even this evening on a Friday evening, when I walked outside earlier before I jumped on this podcast with you guys, I would say it was split 50-50 between men and women. And that in itself, I feel is pretty telling of the culture that has been cultivated here. And I'm hoping that, I can continue to help cultivate that inclusivity.
Yeah.
I do want to mention, we already mentioned Pink Boot Society, but Hannah, I know you were very much involved in the Bold Women and Beer initiative, which we were very bummed that event was postponed in May because we were supposed to record there this year, which we were very, very excited to be a part of it. Do you want to talk a little bit about Bold Women and Beer, and we can all cross our fingers that it will happen in 2021?
I know. So Bold Women in Beer, the first year that we did it was last year, and it was such a cool event. So the entire idea and premise behind it was to really highlight and promote women within the beer industry. We were, in our first year, we were able to secure 100% sponsorship, which means that any and all ticket sale profits went directly back into the Pink Boots Society. Most of that money we were able to keep within our local chapter. And for those listening that maybe don't know what the Pink Boots Society is, I sort of touched on it earlier, but it is a professional women's organization. Although they just recently changed their guidelines for creating a more inclusive environment. So it's the whole idea behind the Pink Boots Society is education and empowerment and elevating women through empowerment and education. So the money that we were able to raise, we were able to keep most of that within our local Philadelphia chapter to go towards educational opportunities and scholarships. And when I say scholarships, I mean scholarships to University of Sciences, to UC Davis. It could also be things, smaller scholarships going towards being able to take a Cicerone class, or White Labs has a great yeast essentials class that they do, and there's a scholarship available for that. So it's really designed to help women better themselves within the industry and make things more accessible. And so in our first year, we raised over $15,000, all of which went back into educational opportunities. So we were really looking forward to being able to do this for a second year. But unfortunately, COVID sort of changed all those plans. One of the coolest things that I heard as an organizer last year came from a woman. She's actually now at Bearded Iris down in Nashville, but at the time she was with the Chamonix Creek. And she's just a kick-ass woman. And she, with tears in her eyes, because she was so happy, said to me, she was like, this was the first time that I ever did an event or worked a festival where everyone just automatically assumed that I knew something about beer and I didn't have to combat my gender just to be heard. And even saying that right now, it gives me chills, because that's exactly what we were trying to do. That's exactly the feeling that shouldn't exist. Like it shouldn't even be a question, but it does exist. And as a woman, I 100% understand that hurdle that is a daily occurrence. But especially when you're public facing, it's something you have to combat against. And, if you come off as too knowledgeable, then, you get labeled a bitch. If you come off as not knowledgeable enough, and so you're a little bit more timid or shy, then you don't know anything about beer. And so trying to find that balance is a constant daily struggle. So to be able to provide a platform for all these powerful, kick-ass women within the industry to just be heard, and be able to do their jobs and speak about something that they're so passionate about without having to justify the fact that their anatomy is different than the consumer that might be standing in front of them. That just made it, everything that we had worked towards it came to a pinnacle moment, like right in that statement. So I think about that statement. I think about Candace all the time, and I don't know if she's listening, but Candace, I love you. I miss you. But yeah, we hope to be able to do it again, because it really was such a cool thing. And our plan for this year was to be able to expand our breweries from just within the Pennsylvania, and most of them came from within maybe like an hour and a half to 2 hour radius of Philadelphia. Our plan this year was to expand that and make it open to any brewery in the United States that had a Pink Boots member within their organization. And actually, even through that, just through some of the networking that I've done and connections that I had, I was actually able to speak more about Pink Boots to some women that I know that weren't members, and then ended up joining. So yeah, I'm hopeful that we can do Bold Women in Beer next year. Sean and I were both on the steering committee for that. So So she and I actually have worked together in a professional capacity, aside from just being in the same industry and breweries within this same region. We've worked in a professional capacity to organize a pretty large scale festival. So I had no qualms about coming in and working alongside her. I knew we could do it. There's such the notion that women can't be friends, that we're competitive constantly, and that, we backstab each other, and we're catty, and get that out of my face. I don't want that. None of that has to be true. It's true if you want it to be, but I don't want that to be. Sean doesn't want it to be. So she and I work really well together.
She's another badass woman.
She's pretty awesome. Yeah. Last time we were at Naked and we had her on the show, she was a ton of fun. Really liked having her on. Yeah.
Shall we play a game?
I was going to say, we've
had
a lot of serious conversations, and a light literally went off in the room.
Dan's magic Apple light or whatever.
It's not an Apple. It's a light that you can get a smart light on any.
He tells Siri
platform.
to turn it on, and
it's set that when it's sunset, it goes off. Anyway, a light went
colors
off.
Too. I can change the color on my phone.
I could say red. You want to say red alert? It'll go red. We're gonna play a game. Fuck it. I don't remember my segue anymore. Here it goes.
All right, well, cheers, Internet, I guess. And welcome to Happy Fun Time Games. It is a podcast trivia segment that only ever uses the edge of its seat.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it buys the whole thing, but it only uses the edge. Today, we are going to play a game that is all about beers with movie title puns for names.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm calling...
Dan wins.
I'm wearing a Monty
my
Python
husband
t-shirt.
is like a movie king. I am like, I'll fall asleep, so you put on whatever you want.
So to clarify, you don't have to know anything about the movies. You just have to know whether it's a real beer or something
It's
I made
true.
up. That's all you need to know.
Okay.
But I'm calling this.
Ready. I'm
calling
super
this-
competitive.
All
so
right, here we go.
bring it. Come on. I got this.
This is libation or fabrication at the movies, or actually at home on Netflix because all the movie theaters are closed. Dan's gonna guess first on our first beer of the game. Tell me,
Okay,
is this a real
first.
beer or is it fake? This beer is called Lacto the Future.
Oh, Back to the Future. I get
Oh,
it.
you get it, yeah.
I, for so many reasons, want it to be real, but it's got to be fake.
All right, Dan is saying that it's a fake beer. Steph, what do you think?
Lacto the Future. I'm going to say fake.
Steph also saying fake. Hannah, you gonna agree or disagree?
I don't think it's real. Side note, my sister-in-law is having a baby and they're naming it Emmett, and every time I hear that name I think about Back to the Future. So,
I thought you were gonna say side note. My sister's having a baby, so I gotta
Right
go, guys.
oh no.
Like,
But
oh,
it
shit.
makes me think of Back to the Future. So
Fair enough.
I hope she doesn't listen to this podcast. 'Cause I don't think she would like that I just said that. No, she doesn't drink beer, so
She won't listen. She'll never hear this.
Anyway, carry on.
You saying
So what's
fake?
the answer?
What'd you say?
What's the answer?
She's saying fake.
Oh, you said fake.
Yeah, she
okay,
said- yeah.
sorry. I didn't hear what you
She
said.
doesn't think it's real.
Everybody said fake. Everybody's wrong.
What?
It's real. It's a real beer.
Who,
What?
Yeah, it was a real beer.
who
They,
does it?
they don't make it anymore. It was a brew pub exclusive at Revolution Brewing in Chicago.
Been
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, Lacto the Future.
They were the host film facility for that beer or that movie with Olivia Wilde and
Booksmart.
the dude from
Booksmart?
wait.
New Girl.
Oh, what?
Right? Fuck, what was the name of that movie?
Back to the Future 3.
With a
Beer,
lip?
Drinky Buddies. Drinky Buddies.
Oh,
That's the name of the movie.
Oh, I did see an ad for
Olivia
that.
Wilde's hot, so you should just definitely watch that movie.
She's married to Jason Sudeikis.
I know who is also
Wait, who's Jason Sudeikis?
Listen,
Horrible Bosses
he's
used to be
hysterical.
SNL back in the day. We're the Millers.
I don't know name. I don't know
yeah.
celebrity names.
that's okay.
You'd
Anyway-
know him if you saw him.
Anyway, Lacto the Future is a real beer. It was made by this brewery. It was a brew pub exclusive. Kettle sour with lactobacillus, obviously. And the base was a light-bodied wheat beer. So there you go. Lacto the Future. Moving on to our next beer of the game, and Steph is up to guess first on this beer. Our next beer is called Mrs. Stoutfire.
I'm going to say real.
Steph is saying that is a real beer. Hannah?
I concur. I believe it is real.
Also saying real. All right, Dan.
I'm going to buck that trend. I'm going to say fake.
Oh, Dan is the only one who says fake. Dan is the only one who is wrong
God damn it.
because it is, in fact, real. It is a big 11.5% English milk stout
That makes sense.
from Cool Springs Brewery, which is just south of Nashville in Franklin, Tennessee. But a pun.
Bourbon County.
Yes.
Bourbon Country.
Bourbon country, unbridled spirit. But upon that obvious, could not have only been done once. It is also over on the shores of Lake Tahoe in Nevada, a 9.5% ABV British-style imperial stout at Crosby's Tavern, also called Mrs. Stoutfire. I think they missed a trick. They should have put peppers in it because fire, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
fruit, or fruit in it because run by fruiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Pierce Brosnan before he was James Bond.
Oh, really? I didn't.
Yeah.
know that.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit. That's like it's like Frodo in Back to the Future. Actually, he's the kid that's like, you mean you have to, or Back to the Future 2. You
That's
mean you
right,
have to
he's at
use
the
your
diner.
hands?
Yeah.
That's like a baby's
Oh,
toy.
man.
Yeah, it's Elijah Wood.
His face.
Oh my God! All right, moving on. Our third beer of the game, and Hannah is up to guess first on this beer. This beer is called Lawrence of Cascadia Black IPA.
Can I say something really inappropriate first before I answer
Say
this?
something
Please
highly
do.
inappropriate.
So, if anybody has ever watched the Sex and the City movies, Samantha references a porn called Lawrence of My Labia, and that's what that just made me think of.
That is a better pun. I like that.
But for that reason, I'm going to say that I think it actually is a real beer.
All right. Hannah saying it's real. Dan.
Gonna stick with fake.
Oh, Dan sticking with fake. He said fake every one so far.
Yeah, I gotta be right one time.
Using the Steph method
know,
of
right?
playing this game to say the same thing for every beer. Steph?
No, I think it's real.
Oh, Steph saying it's real. Hannah saying it's real. You're both wrong. It's fake.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I know. Not as popular as it once was. We all know the Black IPA is also a Cascadian Dark Ale. A little evidence that this style is not as popular as it may have been in the past. The last time that a Cascadian Dark Ale was mentioned in Happy Funtime Games on this podcast was in 2013 in a game of libation or fabrication that included the beer, still one of my favorite names for a beer ever, Carl Weathers as Dylan in Predator Imperial Cascadian Dark Ale.
I remember that.
Remember that? That is a
Hey,
beer.
but I drank one on the last episode.
Yes, true. Yeah, because one of the Blackest Beautifuls was a Black IPA.
Baby, you got a stew going.
Baby, you got a stew. The Carl Weathers beer, if you're curious, was from Fort Collins Brewery. So there you go. I don't remember the episode, but it was a long time ago. Moving swiftly on, and we're back around to Dan to guess first on this beer. And our next beer is called The Last Jedi PA.
It's gotta be fake. It's gotta be fake. There's no way Disney would let that slide.
Saying fake?
Unless they didn't know.
Mickey is brutal. All right, moving on, Steph.
I'm going to say real because Disney ain't got time to look through Untapped all the
Disney,
time.
Ain't nobody got
stop.
time for that shit.
I'm not gonna say it's a sad story.
I think it's real too, for the exact same reason that Steph just said.
All right. Hannah and Steph saying real. They are correct. It is, in fact, real. It is a 6.4% Haze Boy from Toga Sequoia Brewing in Fresno, California. It was a limited release made in 2017, part of their Art Hop series, which was part of the Fresno Art Council's Art Hop monthly event. That's a lot of words. The Fresno Art Council had Art Hop monthly events, and this beer was part of that, and it supported local art, music, museum, and galleries. You look like you had something to say. All right.
Dan is
Analyzing.
just in a state of disbelief.
Yeah. Moving on, The Last Jedi PA was real. Tell me, Steph, is this real or fake? Our next beer is called Brett Becomes Her.
I get that one too.
That's what it. Continue.
Go ahead.
Continue.
I'm going to say real.
Steph is saying that's real. Hannah.
I think it's real too.
All right, also saying real. And finally, Dan, you're going to break the streak of fakes. What are you Oh, you're looking at the score. You can look at the scoreboard.
Yeah,
You just can't look at my phone.
Don't look at your phone. No,
You can't look at my phone, but you can look at the scoreboard.
Yeah, I'm trying
That's
to
over
figure
here.
out how many.
Cheater.
You've done this before, by the way.
Yeah, you have. To be fair, Steph.
Real.
Oh, looked at the
fake,
score.
real.
Yeah. I have.
I want. Real.
All right, Dan saying is real. Everybody said real. Everybody's wrong because it's
God damn it!
fake. Booyah.
I'm kind of glad I was wrong.
What I was going to say, and then I realized it might spoil the answer, was when that when I make a joke on the podcast, my goal is to get Steph to go, huh. And that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. It is fake. It is not a wild fermented immortality granting potion. That was a weird movie. I saw that when I was a kid.
I think I did too.
Yeah. I was really young when that came out, like really young.
It was 92
And
or 3.
I think it was before that.
I googled it earlier. I feel like it was 1992.
Damn, then I wasn't as young as I thought.
I could be wrong. I was 10. If I'm remembering correctly.
I am not revealing my age,
Fair enough.
but we might be around the same age.
All right, we've come now to our final beer of the game.
Fuck.
So we're gonna tally up the scores so far to see where everybody's at.
Shit.
Steph and Hannah tied at the top with 2 points each. Just behind with one single solitary point is Dan. You would have 2 points as well if you just kept saying fake,
I know.
like Steph always does.
I mean, at least you're on the board.
You are on the board. No punishments on the line because, COVID. So we can't do that in person anymore. But pride is. So since you have the lowest score, we're going to let you guess last on our final beer. So we're going to have Steph guess first. Tell me, is this real or fake? The final beer is called Lemony Snickers Citrus Pastry Porter.
Real.
Steph is saying that is real. Hannah?
I think it's also real. Although,
Final answer?
fuck it, it's real.
Fuck
it's
it,
real.
it's real.
It's real. I'm
Fuck
going
it,
to
it's
just go with
real.
that. I'm going to commit to what I said originally.
And finally.
I mean, I have to say fake to have a chance.
Yeah, if you say fake,
Yeah.
you're right. Everybody ties.
The real secret would have been one of you should have said fake. That way I had no chance of even tying.
That's way too much strategy for
Yeah.
Happy Fun Time games. We don't do that
We
here.
don't care that much.
We don't do that here. Especially when there's no punishment on the line.
That's
It
true.
doesn't matter.
Nothing matters.
So Dan is saying fake. You are correct. Tying up the game across the board. Lemony Snickers.
That's the problem.
Hey,
Snickers and
You know what
citrus.
this means, though.
Citrus Pastry
Oh,
Porter. We
yeah.
know what it means. But I just wanted to interject and say it is thankfully fake because that beer existing would truly be an unfortunate event.
Would it?
Sounds pretty gross, right? The citrus although like orange and chocolates is
No.
good.
Yeah, that's why okay, so I felt like that was a conundrum for me. Because on one hand I was going, that would be really difficult to execute well, but also I feel like a lot of the beers that are out there right now in a theoretical conversation, I would go, I don't know how are you going to execute that? And yet it happens.
True.
So
I could
Well,
see
just because it happens doesn't mean it should.
that's true.
inclusivity, Steph.
Just because it happens doesn't mean it should. I will say, like I said, orange and chocolate, good.
Right.
Can go good together.
Right.
What throws me is the lemony, because when you say you're assuming it's lemon and Snickers, whatever else is in Snickers, nougat,
Peanut butter, nougat, chocolate.
yeah, and
I
lemon.
don't think there's peanut butter, but I think there are peanuts.
That's
right?
there are.
I think
there's-
Yeah,
there are
there
nuts-
there is a peanut
Yeah.
butter version of it, but it's not in Snickers proper.
nuts of some description. So everybody's tied with 2 points. You know what we call that?
I like German sparkle party.
A German sparkle party has been had.
German sparkle party. All
There you
right.
go. That's what a three-way tie is called. So yeah, no winners, no losers, no prizes, no punishments. This is, however, the part of the podcast where we like to give a shout out to our most generous patrons on Patreon. We thank you so much for keeping this show going, even in these uncertain times. We would like to thank, from the bottom of our hearts, the following people. James Lamberg.
I like German sparkle party, sparkle party, sparkle party.
It's the fucking remix. Joe Mansell.
Folkfinger.
Dana.
Water.
Sean Sullivan. PA Brew Review.
Come on, Barbie. Let's go party.
Topher Simmons.
One of those ones you would suck on.
It's not what I wanted to hit. I'm so sorry, Steph.
Poor Man's Brewing Company.
Too damn delicious.
Thank you. Mark Badunio.
Nailed it.
Kathy Obashevsky.
Verdammter Einer.
Jill Chivers.
Holy shit, I like aliens.
Who doesn't? Eric Dixon.
I like cookies.
Those two. Jen McDonald.
No.
Even in the apocalypse,
Well, I mean,
win.
that's not true for this one, so fuck
Nah,
you,
you
Dan.
tied, though. Josh Price.
You guys want a bonus beer?
Always. Brian Mills. And Ron McDonald.
Love Dick.
Damn it, not what I wanted to hit, but I'll take it.
Love Dick. If you want to find out how you get on this list, as well as all the other behind-the-scenes perks and the satisfaction of knowing that you keep Beerbusters going, go to patreon.com/beerbusters. Sign up to become a patron for as little as $1 a month. Do you want to play some ads? Let's play some ads.
Sure, why the fuck not?
Say, Yvonne, remember when I said I'd have to send away to NASA to calculate your bar tab?
Oh, yeah. We all had a good laugh, Mo.
The results came back today. You owe me $70 billion.
Saluton.
That's how you say hello in Esperanto. Esperanto. Very obscure language not many people know of. It was a failed experiment to be a universal language.
You're a filthy patak.
Not Klingon. If you want to learn a new language to really show us how much better you are, Rosetta Stone.
That got mean. That got real mean.
Rosetta Stone is where you need to go. Either you're better than us or you want to help pay it forward a little bit. Rosetta Stone has continuously set the standard in
Or
learning.
you want to communicate with more of the human race.
Yeah, that sounds way better than what I said. Rosetta Stone has continually set the standard in language learning to enable people to change their world. They have an innovative, technology-driven language learning solution that is used by thousands of schools, businesses, and government organizations, and just millions of average Joes around the world. They've got courses in 30 languages, whether you want to do Spanish, Mandarin, English, or a less prominent one like Swahili, Swedish, or Tagalog.
Tagalog.
Tagalog?
Maybe it's Tagalog.
Tagalog. That sounds better than Tagalog.
You know
it's
what?
like playing tag with log. And if you want to start your language learning journey today, you want to head to rosettapodcast.com/beerbusters because they are offering listeners of Beerbusters a 24-month subscription for less than $8 a month. rosettapodcast.com/beerbusters. Learn a new language today.
You know what's a beautiful thing that just happened is a basket full of cheese curls, popcorn, potato chips, and pretzels was just presented to me with 2 happy birthday balloons on it. It's not my birthday, but that was just put in front of me.
Oh, that's exciting.
We can pretend it's your birthday.
Yeah.
It's almost my birthday, but it's not my birthday. But yeah, that was just presented. I love
really
cheese
cool.
curls.
Should we continue?
Yeah.
You should.
Look at this pretty crowd.
Yeah, I was just going to
that's
say, what
cool.
did you just open, Steph?
This is Paradise Awaits from Evergreen.
Evergreen? Yeah.
Oh, shit.
And
I
what
also got the Black is Beautiful from them.
what
This
manner of beer is
a
that?
sour ale with pineapple and passion fruit, and it's actually
that sounds
quite tasty.
I before we even got into the game, cracked open the Polotmovy. I don't know how to say it.
Oh my
Polotmovy.
god, I love that beer.
The Czech Garnet Lager from
The
Human
Garnet
Robot.
Lager.
Dark ass
I've-
lager,
it's
fucking
so good.
delicious.
I've had
So
multiple
good.
crowlers of that.
So good. Look at the color on that. So good. Oh, here's another human robot.
My only regret is that I am not able to visit them nearly as much as I would like to, but I would drink their beer every single day.
Yeah.
I have a runner that's obsessed with Transformers that drives down there every week to get the Transformers glasses, so I get crowlers every week
Dude,
from Human Robot.
Rich's PPE game when he came to drop off the beer was on fucking point. He had like an N95 mask on with like a handkerchief over it and wraparound sunglasses and of course his trademark hat. Nothing was getting in on him. I was impressed.
Yeah.
Oh, you still have beer left.
Yeah, I still have beer left. But once it's done, I'll gladly drink some of that.
I will actually be at Human Robot again on Tuesday, apparently.
Nice.
Well, hopefully they release the next Transformers glass on Tuesday, and then you and my runner can meet up and exchange beers.
There you go. Beer and jigsaw puzzles.
Yeah. I have many more of those if Jess is interested.
Jess is still bugging me to start the Dolphin one. I have the other one here, the New Hampshire Brewery one, only because it was a really big box. And the last time I went to her place, I took an Uber, and I didn't want to lug a whole bunch of shit. But so
this is the Czech 10 degrees. Is that a degree sign? Look at that.
There's a little circle there. Check 10 degrees.
Yep. It's unclear if it is Fahrenheit or Celsius.
What if it's Kelvin?
Hannah, what are you drinking now?
I'm still working on this Hitchhiker Bane of Existence.
What was Brandolin trying to open?
Snake box from Kane. But that's just because that was what the closest thing was that I handed her. But the other thing... Oh, she did open it. Good. The other thing that I grabbed was the Pina Colada beer from Workhorse.
Oh, that's really good.
Oh, it's so good.
So, it is so good. I was there last night, actually, and I picked up a couple 4-packs, and that was one of them. I was
great beer to
impressed
drink
with it.
when you get caught in the rain.
Right.
We've all been drinking a lot of Workhorse beer during this pandemic.
Yeah. I keep meaning to get it delivered, but then I forget. And then also, I have a lot of beer in my fridge, so I didn't actually really need to have, well, whatever. After a few beers last night, it wasn't hard to convince me to buy an entire mixed case of things, but now I have an entire mixed case of things from Workhorse.
What I really like about Workhorse is that you can do a mixed case of like various 4-packs and have it delivered, which is really cool because I always like to get a variety of beers, and I don't want to get stuck like having to buy like a full 6 where I can get like the 4 of the tall cans or a full case of only one kind of beer. And
right.
So I love that, and also their beers are just absolutely incredible.
Yeah. You know who else has been doing a kick-ass job at this whole delivery COVID game is Forest and Maine. Now, you have to live within a certain region for them to deliver, but I've been ordering a decent amount of stuff from Forest and Maine. I love Forest and Maine. They were one of the first breweries that I ever visited out in this area before I even moved out here. And I love everything that they do, but and they're not far from where I live, but I've been drinking them more now in the time of love and COVID than I did before, just because it's more easily accessible to me, because I can come home from work and it's sitting on my counter because my husband works from home, so he gets all the deliveries.
That's pretty cool. Dan and I have also been getting a lot of delivery from Love City.
That's kind of who I thought you were going to
Hell
say.
yeah.
He's also doing a great job with delivery.
It's so cool that so many breweries in Philadelphia are be like, "Will you live in the city?" Sure. Like we have a guy that'll just bring.
I
to your house.
love City. So Kevin and I actually went to college together. So I've known Kevin since sophomore year of college. We were good friends in college. So yeah, I love everything they do. I love their whole culture.
Yeah.
I've said
really
it before.
cool people, really great beers, really cool spot.
Yeah.
Love to get back and hang there again once we're allowed to. And like all the shit they do, and they're so about giving back to the community, and their beer is really good.
I said it before and I'll say it again. I think they have the best lager in this city. The Love City lager is just incredible.
I don't disagree with that, although I will say Human Robot and the stuff that they're putting out.
Now that I'm trying their stuff for the first time,
like neck and neck for me.
Yeah.
However, Love City will be the next keg that I have in my kegerator over here. It's going to be the Totally Wired, which is that's good.
It's
like their version of COB mostly, which I'm sure you could relate to.
Yeah, Love City's super rad.
Yeah.
And what's really cool about Love City, also Human Robot does this, is they have like a when you order their beer online, they have like these variety packs. So they have like a lager pack where they give you like a couple cans of their Love City lager and then a couple crowlers of like maybe a Pilsner or like.
I mean, if I would have realized we were going to go through probably 4 crowlers tonight recording, I would have said, yes, let's do that lager
pack.
Yeah,
we were going to do the lager pack from Human Robot, but we also got other beer that day. We're like, maybe we should cut back.
You always do the lager pack from Human Robot.
No, I know.
It was a matter of timing and wanting to drink it because I knew I wanted...
Amateurs!
Wayne suggested splitting the lager pack, which I was all for, except that I realized that after tonight, he's going to go to Jess's and I'm going to want to drink beer here at home.
That's fair. I will also be babysitting a 4-year-old for the remainder of the weekend, so I don't think I'll be doing any drinking.
See, I don't think we knew that at the time. Or at least if you did, you didn't tell me.
Babysitting bullshit is that?
Listen, my girlfriend's in charge. I'm just there for moral support. It's her niece.
Right. You just stated the
Yeah,
entire
but I
point that
also
was trying to
feel
make.
like my
Your
girlfriend
girlfriend's in charge.
is going to get mad at me if I get drunk while her niece is staying with us.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes for good entertainment.
All right.
All right, I think we should wrap this up because I want to spend last call talking about bubbles and lipstick, and maybe we can get Brandolin on for a second and talk about some unicorns.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Let's
Fee,
do
you
it.
want to come on?
Where can people find more about Naked Brewing?
So we have a newly designed website that just got revamped this week. Beyond that, follow us on social media, man.
Naked
Instagram,
Brewing,
Facebook.
nakedbrewingcompany.com.
Yep. We also have a separate Facebook and Instagram account for our new Bristol location as well. You can find stuff on that. I'll be honest, we probably post more on stories on Instagram and Facebook. But we do try to do some daily posts on.
Well, that's
Facebook
how
and
you
Instagram.
get the engagements. I have an important question. If I needed or wanted to get some of that golf beer, when can I come to Naked and get some of that?
Oh, for you, anytime you want to send me a message, I will be here and make sure that you can access some of this. But
I was going to say I do appreciate that, but for the people out there,
for anybody else, currently, and this is always subject to change, because of the current times. Currently, we are open Thursday, Fridays, Saturdays in Huntington Valley, and Bristol is yet to be determined what days we will be open there. Last weekend, we did just Saturday and Sunday, but I think it's so hard to say. Honestly, I know that that's a really crappy answer, and I'm not doing a very good job.
No, I mean it's a new location in a time when the world doesn't understand. Like the world doesn't know how things are going to go.
Yeah,
but that's understandable. I will definitely shoot you a message for if and when I can go up there and get some of that golf beer because that sounds fantastic. While you are out there finding Naked online,
Getting naked online.
Yep.
For money.
Yeah.
You can follow.
So my new hashtag is brew clothed, drink naked. That's my new hashtag.
Brandolin Armstrong is trying to enter the meeting.
Oh, good Lord.
Brandolin Armstrong is right here.
I shouldn't have admitted her until we finished
Probably
the
not,
actual
no,
episode,
because
but
this
I
is
just
now going
did.
to take an extra half hour.
Oh boy.
Oh my God.
That's a face.
I really wish we were recording video. Jesus.
You froze for a second, and it was one of those bad freeze frames. Yeah, it was kind of like
Just about,
that.
yeah.
I'm waiting for my headphones.
Oh, I was going to say, there's a real nasty echo.
Over there.
Well, while we're figuring out these logistics, remember, anybody out there who would like to follow Beer Busters, you can see all the shit behind the scenes at Beer
Why
Busters,
you would
Twitter,
want to,
Instagram,
don't know.
Facebook, we are Beer Busters Podcast. There's beerbusterspodcast.com and also patreon.com/beerbusters. And I feel like this is going to be a last call that you want to listen to because it's always a hell of a time when Brandolin's on.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, good Lord. Oh, there's
Wow.
there's that.
It's like a feedback loop
It
going
is. Can we mute her for the time
It
being?
I was
me
trying to
on
get
that.
Sean.
Hi, Sean.
She's been running our retail operation all evening, so I was trying to get her to come over. So they can only hear you through my earbuds because I don't have you on the normal microphone. So, but you're sitting close enough.
Well, as long as you
I mean,
talk
we're
as loud
totally
as
6 feet
Brandolin
apart.
did in the background, we'll hear you just fine.
That's true.
I have a mask on. Hi, guys. Good
Hi.
to see you.
Good to see you.
I heard me.
I heard me.
There's that echo.
Sean and I are
Running the joint.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody's gotta.
They can't. So they're only recording audio, not video. Don't worry. So.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. We only do the video because it feels more personal when we can see each other.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
We just
so you
record
couldn't
the
see
audio.
everybody go into the bathroom tonight?
Yeah, there's a lot of.
they could see.
Well, going
that was
on
pretty
their
funny,
way to the
actually.
bathroom, not going to the bathroom.
Yeah, go ahead.
What
What is-
I don't know
What
what's
did you say?
happening with
Oh my
Brandolin.
God.
All right,
I don't know.
There's a lot that's going on.
so we're gonna end the real episode.
Yeah,
we'll
I'm
do a
gonna-
little last call.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that Sean was at least like
Who's that
heard
guy?
and represented, and
Hi.
she's
I'm working.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sean, we love
she's
you.
running the business. She's busy moving and shaking and doing everything, but this place would literally not exist or be in any positive aspect if it weren't for her and Jim. Jim has a full-time job outside of the brewery, and he's been working hard, and much like myself and Sean, every day we're just like, oh my gosh, this heat is killer. So when he got done with his full-time job today, he went home to kind of chill and relax. He's going to be here all weekend, finishing and installing a new sour kettle for some fun upcoming projects.
Ooh, stay tuned for that.
He's starting working on those new delivery and packaging formats that are coming up that you can't talk about.
Yes, I didn't ask Sean if I could talk about our new packaging formats, but hey, Sean, can I talk about our new packaging format?
With them, yeah.
Oh,
okay.
With them,
we bought a canner.
Yes! Yes!
That's cool. That's great.
Yeah, we bought a canner last week. So now we're just waiting. And the next few weeks we'll be brewing beers to put into some lovely 16-ounce cans.
Oh, that's awesome.
On that bombshell.
Yes. On that bombshell, it is time to end. Hannah, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, guys, thanks so much for inviting me.
Of course. I'm sorry.
Be my friends.
It's I'm sorry it's taken 7 years to get you on the show. But we won't
wait.
We won't wait another 7.
I understand where I fall on your list of.
No, that's not true. It's just that John Stemler always wanted to try to have the fun while he made you work.
He hogs the spotlight. I'm sure Brandolin can attest to this.
Exactly.
We're gonna talk about the cans, and we're gonna talk about John Stemler hogging the spotlight in Last Call. So stick around for that.
Talking about John Stemler's hog? What?
Yeah.
On that note, this does bring us to the end of another episode of Beer Busters. Now we have 40 seconds to go, and I should have started this sooner.
You do this all the time. Let's get a shorter outro clip.
No, because that takes effort. You go ahead.
This
and make
sounds
it.
like Coldplay.
No, it sounds like Train.
That's what
Remember?
I meant.
Yeah, there you go. Obviously, you listen to this, check out Naked Brewing. Their stuff has always been great, and it's going to get better now that Hannah's making all the beer. It's going to be, it's worth it. Well, I am Dan Baker. I am joined by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner.
And the demented and fermented
Wayne Baker.
Remember, no squids were harmed in the making of this episode. You, my friend, we will see you next time.
Like an aggressively friendly chihuahua.
Jesus.